And here we go with the powered cube. Sadly, we didn't open a piece of power, but there's a Tolarian Academy, which is quite powerful if you can get some artifacts. Kind of like going for the most degenerate things, and Academy certainly counts. We are passing Cryptic Command, Ever-Flowing Chalice, and some decent cards, but nothing too spectacular. So let's hope to get some Moxen and artifacts going. And still no power to be seen, but let's see what we have. We have some lands, Cradle certainly being the most powerful, although I can't imagine a deck playing both Academy and Cradle. That just doesn't make much sense. Well, I guess we could empty the Rorans and then Cradle it up, but that doesn't seem very reasonable. We could go for Canonist, which is kind of against the idea of going for degenerate stuff yourself, because you won't be able to make multiple spells. I think the most powerful cards are Cradle, Canonist, and Sword of War and Peace. And I don't really like green in this format, so I think we should go for one of the artifacts, also because we have the Academy already. So overall, Canonist might just be the best pick if we want to keep it fair. Yeah, I think it's better than Dark Confidant. I think the good decks in this format have expensive cards, and that makes it kind of stupid to play the Confidant. And we didn't see any power so far, so we might be forced into playing the fair deck, and then having a Canonist to keep the others fair is certainly a good thing. Snapcaster Mage is incredible with Time Walk and Ancestral, which we might still find. Other than that, I like Baleful Strix just as a value card. And the white cards are okay, but not incredible. So I think I'm going to pick the Strix here. Maybe we can go for some Esper artifact deck where the Academy is actually good. We'll just see what happens. That's a pretty late Demonic, which we might just pick. There's also Elish Norn, which is close to unbeatable for certain decks. And the other cards are worse. Razor Mane, Precursor are okay, but I mean Demonic Tutor is Demonic Tutor, so let's just pick that. We can still play Baleful Strix in a combo deck, and we've picked. At least we won't have to play against Canonist if we decide to go for Storm or anything like that. So there's a Time Twister, which is only good in decks that are really degenerate, but then it's insane. There's also Balance, which if you can abuse it, is also very, very good. I kind of like Smokestack as a way to continue the artifact theme, but it's a little on the weak side, usually. We also don't have Tinker or anything, so I think I'm going for Time Twister here, keep up the dream of going completely crazy. Next, there's a Lion's Eye Diamond, which we could use to Storm. It's great with Demonic and Time Twister, so we already have two great cards to use with it. It also powers up Academy, so I kind of like taking the Diamond here, moving in on some kind of Storm combo deck. Preordain is also great in any blue deck, but I want to go crazy, and Lion's Eye Diamond is far more crazy than a Preordain. Here we could pick up a Porcelain Legionnaire just to have a quick early artifact, and Nullrod kind of hoses us with the Diamond, but I'm not going to play it myself. I think the Legionnaire is actually fine, a nice card against creature decks, and an artifact for whatever we are going to do. Palinchron, potential infinite mana, Shenanigans, or Seething Song for Storm. There's also a Tanglewire, which is just good, but I like it more in aggressive decks. This doesn't look like an aggressive deck. So the question is, are we going to go infinite with Palinchron, or are we going to Storm with Seething Song? And then we definitely want some rituals. So not too sure what the pick is here. I think I'm going for Seething Song because it's just cheaper, even though it adds another color to our deck. And here it's either Blood Crypt or Ever-Flowing Chalice. Don't know how good our mana is going to be, so picking up a Blood Crypt doesn't seem like the worst idea. given that we have Demonic and Seething Song already. Yeah, I think we can do that. There is a lot of signets and other stuff, so I don't see a problem with that. That's a pretty late Cradle. I'm surprised to still see that. We could pick up an Angel of Despair. It's always good to have some late game cards, and we can't really support Lodestone Golem with the cards we have. That just wouldn't work. So I think I'm going for the land again, just to have better mana in the end. Because Mesa can already fetch Blood Crypt, I know it's not going to be dead. And here we have the choice between Verdant Catacomb and Intuition. Intuition is pretty amazing in a Storm combo deck. I'm going to take it over another off-color fetch land, basically. It's also Lumberjack, but you need forests for that, and we might not have that. Okay, I'm going to take Elish Norn now. Elish Norn is perfectly reasonable if you flip it off a Mind's Desire or something, so I'm not unhappy to see it. And let's hope for some power cards now. Okay, Griselbrand is in the house. Underground Sea, Impulse, Counterspell, but sadly no power once again. We can wheel quite a lot of cards out of this pack. Ors of Signet, the blue cards, the Underground Sea are all fine. I'm going to take Griselbrand. I have no idea how to cast it yet, but it seems to be the most powerful card in this pack, and if you can get it down against any kind of deck, you usually win. So we can make this one of our goals. Maybe with a card like Entomb and picking up some reanimation, but I think a card like Dreamholtz or Sneak Attack is probably a little more realistic. There's also Tooth and Nail, but that's almost as expensive as Griselbrand, so we aren't going to go that route. I kind of like Ancestral Vision here. It is pretty slow, but if you have it in our starting hand, it's going to be very good. And Entomb is not looking too amazing right now. We might even wheel it. I also don't really want to go into a full Reanimator deck. At least not before I've seen some Reanimator cards. Here we could pick several cards. Forbid is fine, Enlightened Tutor is fine, Hallowed Fountain is fine. But none of these are truly amazing. I don't think we have good tutor targets, and we don't necessarily want to play white. Forbid is a nice card, and I actually like the discard as a way to get stuff into your graveyard and so on. Hallowed Fountain doesn't look like it's going to be necessary, even though it fixes our blue with the help of Arid Mesa. Yeah, this is just not a great pack, I feel like. I think we can wheel one of the white duels, and Forbid should make the deck pretty easily. It's also difficult to play against, so let's try that. Wow. Now this is pretty insane because there is Wheel of Fortune, Brain Freeze, and Turnabout, and we kind of like all of these. With the Time Twister already, we could double up on Wheel of Fortune, but we don't have a way to win yet, so no way to actually generate that much storm or go off completely. Which means that we might just want to pick Brain Freeze here to make sure that we can actually storm combo people out of the game. Which is still a problem against Eldrazi, but I still think that Brain Freeze is very, very good. I think, yeah, it's not unrealistic to just mill people out with that. And I like it better than basically a second Time Twister. Here we have Strip Mine, Gifts Ungiven, and Skull Clamp, or just some lands again. We don't really have creatures for Skull Clamp, so that's not an option. Gifts Ungiven should be pretty amazing though. In a combo deck like this, we should be able to do some good stuff with that. There's a Sneak Attack, so now we really have to consider our options. I think it's not one of the creatures, and it's not Caracas. It's either Thran Dynamo to go for more of a Storm mana combo kill. Well, it also helps to cast the expensive cards, or just sneak attack as an alternative win condition. Sneak attacking Grizzlebrand, but that looks like a 2-card combo that isn't even that amazing in this deck, while the Dynamo actually helps our main plan and helps to cast Grizzlebrand. So let's go with that. We also have Lake of the Dead potentially. Wow, what is happening here? This is Library of Alexandria, which is just insane if you start the game with it. And there's also still a Metalworker, but I'm picking Library. Next, this is bad for us because both Thalia and Nether Void basically ruin our whole game plan. And there isn't that much that we want, but a Badlands is still better than hating one of these. I feel like we might just have to fight through them. If there was only one, I might have hate drafted one, but I feel like we can't do that here. Now, I don't know if we are going to play white. The Canonist isn't really a thing in our deck, so it's between Orzhov Signet and Underground Sea, and we kind of want the artifacts for the Academy, but the Signets are actually not that amazing. So I'm going to go for Underground Sea, hoping to pick up some more powerful cards. And here we could pick up Scroll Rack, as it's a very good way to see more cards. We could also just Shadow Mage Infiltrator, but I feel like we can't rely on creatures in this deck. I'm just going to go for a very good mana base, and then we'll see what happens. Turnabout looks like the only card that we might want. Of course, this deck is still missing quite a bit. Could also make good use of an Unburial Rites. I don't know if that's in the cube. I don't think so. But yeah, this deck still needs a lot to get going. Let's see if Pack 3 has something for us. All Sun's Dawn might actually do something. And Sneak Attack and Cloudskate Wield, that's pretty insane. I kind of like both here. And I'm going to go with Cloudskate. Now, that's because I'm kind of off the Sneak Attack Grizzlebrand plan. I'm going to play the Grizzlebrand just as another way to win, but suspending Cloudskate is actually pretty good to gain some tempo and to keep people, well, off certain answer cards and stuff like that. It also generates Storm, and we are still hoping to find some Storm card to win with. We don't have an equipment for a Stoneforge Mystic, otherwise that would be a very good pickup. Remand is okay. Solemn is also solid. And Coalition Relic just generates a lot of mana, which isn't the worst in the kind of deck we are drafting here. Kind of like Coalition Relic the best. Let's just go with that. And there's a Bribery, a Mind's Desire, a Monolith, and a Mox Diamond. So that's pretty intense. I think we have to take Mind's Desire, because if it doesn't table, we don't really have a deck. But with it, we actually have a good shot at winning, and we might wheel one of the fast mana cards. It's not realistic, but it's possible. And I don't want to see this Mind's Desire gone, and then we don't have a win condition. Basically no way to win. So this is exciting. We could still pick up a Tendrils, and Yavgmoth's Will would also be amazing. Here the option is Shelllock Isle or Basalt Monolith. I feel like the Monolith is certainly better during a Storm turn, but Shelldock Isle is just pretty amazing, basically all the time. I think Shelldock Isle has to be the pick. It's just a really unfair card. It means that we don't have that much fast mana as we would like, but I don't see how to change that now. There's a channel, but we won't be able to use that. Our mana base isn't built to support double green, and all this colorless mana would be good if we had if we had life left, but I think we have to rely on other cards like this Frantic Surge to actually go off. Here there is a Lotus Bloom, which I feel fits our deck perfectly. It's not a Black Lotus, but it's pretty close. I like it much better than Fact or Fiction or any of the other cards here. Here we have what should look like an easy Memory Jar. Absolutely crazy card. Volcanic would be nice, but Memory Jar is insane. And Empty the Bones gives us another win condition, which is important if Brain Freeze somehow doesn't work. And it might also, if we kind of fizzle, we can still make some goblins, which might be pretty good. Yeah, much better than Phyrexian Rager. That's interesting. Show and Tell might look interesting, but our opponents are going to have very powerful stuff to put into play. And this Griselbrand is just kind of like a backup plan. I like Exploration except for the green mana cost. I don't think our mana base needs work, so I'm going to pick Worn Power Stone as another way to generate some extra mana. We don't have the fastest of decks, so we have to watch out for that. Remand looks like a card we could make good use of, and yeah, to force through our combo or delay what our opponent is doing. Here I could see just picking the Shriekmaw because it's a very, very nice way to have an easy removal, early removal spell, and Liliana is just not that amazing. So yeah, I would like Nostalgic Dreams in this deck, but I don't think the green is happening even with the Lotus like cards. Just doesn't seem realistic. And the Monolith table, which is great for us. I don't know if we need any of this. We could pick the Mana Tithe, but we might actually want to play Joshi Apprentice in some matchups. And these cards don't look like they do anything for us. Awakening Zone does generate some mana, but I feel like it's pretty weak. Okay, picking up some green-white aggro cards in the end. I think we have a good shot, but this is going to be tough to play, so bear with me as we battle through these Swiss rounds. Okay, just going to start with the lands. We're going to have to figure out the mana base later. These are in. Scroll Rack is probably in. We are going to be able to do some crazy stuff, I feel like. Don't even know if Turnabout is that great. So maybe the Porcelain Legionnaire, but I don't think that's actually good enough. So if you just look at the combo cards, we have the two Suspend cards and Lion's Eye Diamond. We need most of this to fuel our combo approach. I like them. I like all the fast mana, or well, it's kind of like slow mana, but it's a lot of mana. Turnabout on lands or artifacts should still be good enough, and we certainly are going to keep in all the storm spells and draw 7s. So let's count Griselbrand as a draw 7. I kind of like Baleful Strix. An early card draw. It's an artifact. We want to play Turlarian Academy, so I think that's fine. Where's the second creature? Well, it's Griselbrand. Okay, we have 2 creatures right now. Now we have Gifts Ungiven, Porcelain Legionnaire, Shriekmaw, Remand, Joshi Apprentice, Forbid, and Riftring Cloudskate all as legitimate options. And I kind of like playing the Cloudskate just because of Suspend and the ability to generate mana. I'm not going to play All Sun's Dawn, I'm not going to play green cards, period. And Nalrod is not playable for us because it just shuts off everything. Now, our mana looks fine. We can get actually Plateau. We could play Plateau for a white mana if we play the Legionnaire, but that's actually pretty bad. But we have black-red, 2 black-red lands, an Underground Sea, which we can fetch with Bloodstained Mire, and yeah, some swamps to sacrifice to Lake of the Dead. I think we are just going to run all of these, which means that we want to play quite a lot of lands, because Library and Academy and Lake of the Dead might not make mana immediately, so kind of have to be a little bit careful about that. So overall, we probably won't have space for any of, well, I kind of like Remand the most, and Gifts Ungiven seems like a card that we can't really cut. It's going to get 2 amazing cards basically all the time, and any card that interacts nicely with Lion's Eye Diamond is also worthy of inclusion. So I don't have much experience with this archetype, but this looks like a good core for what we're trying to do, and we just aren't going to mess with any of these creatures because we don't want to draw them during our combo turn. Remand is okay because you can still use it to time walk your opponent, or actually increase the storm count. Sometimes you can even remand a storm spell and cast it again. Although one problem of our deck is that we aren't actually generating all that much mana, so that's something to keep in mind. I'm going to play the Academy, even though it's going to take some time to take off. But with this deck, we aren't actually forced to win very, very early, and because we didn't get any power cards, well, except for the Library maybe, we just won't be able to either. So let's look at the mana base. We have a Coalition Relic for arbitrary mana, Lotus Bloom kind of. These are all colorless basically. So we have 3 black cards, 2 red cards, and the rest is blue, which should make building this mana base pretty easy. Now, Lake of the Dead only works if we sacrifice a swamp first, and then we have to sacrifice additional swamps. So looking at what we have, we actually don't want to play all that many swamps, but Underground Sea, Blood Crypt, and Badlands are swamps already. So I don't really know if we can support Lake of the Dead, but I do want to, because the mana boost it does provide can be very, very good to power out something like a Griselbrand. I think we'll be fine. So I kind of like to have 6 or 7 swamps with Lake of the Dead. So that would be 6 swamps with a Bloodstained Mire to find it. We have Badlands, Blood Crypt as our 2 red sources, and a Bloodstained Mire to find a 3rd one, which looks like it should be enough. Seething Song and Empty the Warrens aren't that important in the early game, and we have several ways to cast it. So we might play 1 mountain, but we don't have to. So the question is if we have enough blue sources. Not counting this, not counting this. We have 9 blue sources if we play Lake of the Dead, which isn't amazing, but if we think about this deck, then having 9 sources gives us a very reasonable shot at having 1 in the opener, and then we should be fine. We don't need double blue until later in the game. I could see cutting Lake of the Dead, which would allow us to cut a swamp as well, and then just play additional islands. I think that's the one decision we have to make here. Lake of the Dead could be really awkward if we draw it and just don't have a swamp, or we get punished by some kind of non-basic land hate. Yeah, I'm going to take it out. Playing an island, especially given that we have 2 lands that don't generate mana, just seems much safer. And then we can look at the number of black sources again, probably cut 1, simply because 7 black sources is far too much. We actually need much less than that, which gives us another island. And we could play a mountain, which is also fetchable with Bloodstained Mire, which I kind of like. But at that point, we would actually have to play Arid Mesa, maybe. We could play Plateau and Arid Mesa. Arid Mesa does get us another one of these duels. I'm just afraid that we might not have enough targets. So I'm going to play the Plateau and the Mesa. And then I can cut another Swamp, because Arid Mesa does get a black source. And that means I need to reduce the island count by 1 again. I think that's fine. So we would be able to play the white on Porcelain Legionary, but I don't think that's something we want. And the Plateau might come back to hurt us, but only Grisavant is quad black, and we are probably only going to cast this with card like Lotus Bloom or Shelldog Isle. Although we do have some of the mana producers to actually get up to 8, that's not our main plan with this deck. Yeah, I kind of like what we did here. This is Swiss, so if we win or lose, you're going to get 3 rounds, and I'm excited to see how this works out.